Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Tech Whispers. We're really excited about today to shine the spotlight on Diane Schwarz, the Chief Information Officer of Smurfit Westrock. Amazing global company. We're going to talk more about them in a minute. Prior to this role, Diane was CIO at Johnson Controls, Textron, Hunt Consolidated, and her career has really spanned across some of the most complex, most challenging industries. What makes Diane really stand out, though, isn't just her track record, but her leadership trifecta, her resiliency, her agility, the ability to show up with confidence and calm in class just really defines who Diane is. In fact, those who know her best say she redefines what it means to be a great CIO. And as one of the best CIOs in the business, she thrives in these different capacities, what I call the Chief Integration Officer, Chief Inspiration Officer, Chief Instigation Officer, Chief Influence Officer, and much more. So we're going to unpack a lot of that through my questions, but also through a number of her colleagues, her peers, her mentees, who will help me pull back the curtain and really shine the light on her superpowers. So let's get started here. Diane, so excited to welcome you to the Tech Whispers. And I'd like to have you kick us off with the Smurfit Westrock story, including the impressive size, the scale of this global behemoth.
Well, I appreciate you having me here, Dan. So thank you. So Smurfit Westrock is perhaps the best kept secret. So we are the go-to sustainable packaging partner of choice. What does that mean? We make paper, cardboard, boxes that make the world go round at scale. 100,000 employees, 32 billion in revenue. I'm not even sure how many locations. So 1 year ago, Smurfit acquired Westrock, thus bringing together Smurfit Westrock. We're traded on 2 stock exchanges now, the London Stock Exchange and the New York Stock Exchange, but we still have a family feel in that our CEO, Tony Smurfit, is 3rd generation of the founder. And every day we live our values of integrity, loyalty, safety, and respect. It's really cool to work for a company at scale that provides such great products to the world that still feels like a family enterprise.
It's incredible. I'm really glad that we're having you on and talking about the company. And as you say, make the world go around. We forget about the things that it takes to make the world go around, right? You think everything supply chain and related. And well, in my introduction, Diane, I talked about kind of how to play on the CIO role, and I inserted a number of different I's in kind of reflecting not your titles, but the things you do well. And one is that whole idea of the Chief Integration Officer. And, just kind of backing up for a second, at the core, leadership, it's about weaving together business and technology. It's weaving together people and culture, strategy and execution. So what you've done masterfully, all these things across multiple industries, complex industries. So anyways, I'd love to have you talk about the integration side of your superpowers and how you are approaching the integration of 2 global teams into one unified company, one unified IT solutions team.
It starts with listening, which I think we'll actually talk more about in this session, but listening to my stakeholders, but listening to what my teams need. And it was really clear to me in coming into the role that they needed communications and clarity. So the transaction happened last July of 2024, and I came in January. So the teams had gone 6 months without somebody in this role leading them together. So we still had 2 teams essentially working in parallel and doing a little bit of a dance. So listening to their angst about ambiguity, one of the first things I did is bring an extended leadership team together and talk about what our priorities were, which was technical integration. But one of the first decisions that I made, I think it was 3 weeks in, I said, we are no longer going to have 2 people in a box. We're going to have 1 person in a box. because everybody was being too nice. Said, I need one person for each of the major towers that we had in our integration efforts as the decision maker. Yes, they need to involve the teams from both sides, but one person is the decision maker. And what I tell them is a puppy with two masters doesn't get fed. Mom thinks dad did it. Dad thinks mom did it. Poor little puppies weren't running around saying, who's going to take care of me? So I really felt that was how our teams were. It was a puppy with two masters. So I said, each stream, each integration work stream has one clear owner to make those decisions and move forward.
I love that puppy analogy.
I use it way too often.
It's really good. It's really good. You mentioned it all starts with listening. And, I just think about that, Diane, because so many people in our industry, in our profession, listen to respond. They don't listen to understand. And your global comms and engagement manager, great partner of yours, I know, Heather Pitt, describes you in very much an authentic, warm leader. You genuinely care. And so when you go out and do, I think she called it a listening itinerary. What does that mean? What are you looking for? What are you listening for? And then how did you use that to shape your priorities? So I think everyone talks about it, but to really execute on it and be seen as a truly genuine, listening, caring person.
So I've got two parts to this answer. First of all, I love the book by Marshall Goldsmith on What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And he has a chapter on listening. And the metaphor that I took away from the book, I don't even know if he has it in there, but it's what I recall, is if you have a problem of listening to respond or speaking too much, give yourself the metaphor of putting some duct tape over your mouth until it is time for you to respond. Make some notes on what your thoughts are, because you eventually will respond. But you have to learn to not speak first and let the room have the air. So that's kind of first. But I do have an approach on these listening journeys. First of all, prioritizing meeting with the business stakeholders, meeting with the IT teams, and yes, meeting with my suppliers and partners. All are really important. I really like to do it in person. Yeah, during the pandemic, I had to do a lot of it during on camera and still do, but you can't really replace that in-person interaction. So understanding where the money is made, walking the shop floor, wearing the personal protection equipment, talking to people about, what issues are they seeing and feeling and hearing. So it's really important to be there in person. But I listen for really anecdotes or those sticky spots. Where there's smoke, there tends to be fire. Or where there's smoke in multiple locations against multiple geographies and multiple cultures, there certainly are embers and fires. So that's really much of what I do is I listen to those anecdotes and then think about what are the common themes that really emerge from there. And then when I mapped out the priorities for the team, I put them into three buckets: integrate the business, advance the business, run the business. And we have priorities underneath there. But I really wanted to connect it to the business. I'll ask the teams, how many boxes do we have to sell to pay for this initiative? That will really put, some folks, gives them some pause when we're talking about major initiatives with a lot of zeros on there. So kind of multiple threads to that answer, but really listening for anecdotes, looking for that smoke, and putting it together when you're starting to hear repeated themes.
That's brilliant. And obviously it keeps going back to the North Star, right? It's the business and the impact and all that. So and you just taught me another really great application for duct tape. I mean, it's great for everything, right? But for those who aren't great at listening. And I just want to pick up on one of your points you make, because people always ask me, how do I build my panels? How do I build my podcast? And it all starts with listening and knowing the audience. And when I'm listening, I'm actually listening for content, but I'm also listening for tone. Those hot spots you talk about, right? And when I hear someone get excited about something, I'm like, we're gonna go there. We're gonna go there. And so I love those tips.
So
Uh,
can I give you another tip?
yeah, absolutely.
Well, one of the things that I am doing with my teams right now as I'm learning this organization is we have these little introduction slides that they do. Um, Something professional and something personal. And we start with a call me if you want to know about X, and don't call me for that. Like, don't call me for cooking tips. But a lot of people will put pictures of their animals on these slides. And I have found it so interesting because I was in a room where there was a dog person, a dog person, a dog person, and there was an individual who just shut down. It was when you mentioned tone that I thought about
Mm,
this. You have to be able to read the room and read the people.
yeah.
And when we got to him, didn't have his slide up. I said, "You didn't respond to any of those dog pictures. Are you a cat person?" And oh my gosh, it just unlocked his persona. He was so happy. Absolutely, he was a cat person and wanted nothing to do with dog people. So you really have to be a read of the room and pay attention to when somebody is smiling and when they're sitting up straight and when they're paying attention. That's the golden nuggets, finding the cat people.
I love it. I love it. Um, keep throwing those out there. These are great. These are great teachings, and I love bringing people into the podcast who know my guests well, and it had no shortage of people that love Diane, and I think we've got 7 mystery questioners from different
Wow.
walks of your life, and so we're gonna have some fun with this. This first one is someone who's worked closely with you. He's been mentored by you. He's now one of the CIOs in the wild because of your great teaching and coaching. And so, and that, you know what? People thinking, oh, you just told who it is. No, because there's a lot of those people out there. So you just have to really lean in and listen and for
It's
the
a
voice.
few.
Um, but anyways, he really highlights and appreciates your abilities to navigate the demands of the tricky balancing acts of this job. And so listen in and we come back, tell us who this is, and you'll have fun with the question.
Hi, Dan. I'm amazed on how you navigate through your demands, which is physical, emotional, and work through the constraints like time to balance your primary responsibilities at your current job, that is, taking care of strategy, operational excellence, continuous improvement, and people, and still be a superhero in managing external relationships and mentoring. What strategies would you use to spot someone's true potential and ensure your mentees feel valued, supported, and empowered, even when you're not always physically present?
Hi, Nari Thauda. Miss you.
I love it. I
Yes.
love it.
I've worked with Nari a few different places now. So, well, first, let me talk about like when you do spot talent, it is about giving them opportunities. Yes, we should always give the big opportunities, but sometimes just finding the small opportunities to observe someone. I try to make it a good habit with my teams that when they can't attend my staff meetings, they should send a delegate from one of their direct reports. Same on steercos, send a delegate, because that way I do get to watch people in the wild, seeing how they are able to respond when they're dealing with the next level up of peers. It's a great way to watch for talent. But another way to look for talent is in the calibration sessions. I just did one with my team this week when we put all of their direct reports on a board and we put them in the 9 box and we debate and we hash and we really talk about what does it mean to have future potential. I also listen to what stakeholders and peers are saying. The people who demonstrate talent, potential, are usually the ones that others are talking about in a positive way. Wow, we got unsolicited feedback with this project that somebody ran or some ideas that they did. So that's really important to have those unintentional advertisers out there in the network. Um, but one of the things that I like to do to foster that talent, that goes back to the one-on-one time. If I'm N and my direct reports are N-1 and their direct reports are N-2, I make it my goal to have at least one meeting a year with that N-2. What do they want to talk about? What do they want to showcase? And how they show up to those meetings says a lot to me about their desire and how they want to manage their career. But when I have those sessions and if they ask for the coaching session, there's a couple of key questions that I will ask. One is, what is it that you do at work that makes you the most happy? Because usually that's the kind of thing that we're good at, and try to then double down and figure out how we can really add to those strengths. But the other thing I ask is, how many more years do you want to work? Because I have a lot of folks that come and say, I want to be a CIO. And I say, how many more years do they want to work? And if they say, well, I only want to work another 4 years, I'm like, okay, you got one chance. How are we going to do this? And this isn't necessarily about now my N-2s, but more broadly. So sometimes it's having those really candid conversations with someone to say, is that really what you want to do with your remaining work years? Or is it about financial stability for your family or whatever it is? So how many more years do you want to work, and what do you want to do that really makes you happy are kind of key to a number of the coaching sessions that I do.
That's brilliant. And I wrote those questions down because I love where you're going with those. And I know you're listening for tone as you do that, right? And how excited they get. That's fantastic. You are a self-proclaimed global nomad. You are, so this is under the banner of Chief International Officer, okay? And people always ask, where in the world is Diane? And in fact, right now, it's late Friday. You're in the UK. Thank you for making time and having so much energy after a very busy week and calling from your hotel. But before you answer the question and talk about this, I'd love to have you listen to this next mystery questioner. Again, someone who knows you really well.
Hi, Diane. You've always done so well working with cultures across the world, and I know you have a incredibly large passion for travel. Can you discuss how you've leveraged this travel and curiosity of different cultures to make a broader impact as a CIO?
I love Kim McEnroth. She was a former guest on the show, and she attributes a lot of her CIO success to you, Diane. So thank you, Kim. But yeah, anyways, why don't you talk about Kim a little bit,
Sure.
and then your question.
Yeah, Kim and I worked together for many, many years. I have many stories I could tell you about Kim as she could tell you about me. So right, when I left to Textron, Kim stepped into the role behind me. And boy, you really get to know somebody well when you pick up all of the messes they left you. So thank you, Kim.
I've never heard about any messes from Kim, but
I'm sure there were some. So I just have to say that I think this the I'll call it the global nomad is part of my DNA, but I really think it's more about a strong value of diversity that was in my DNA. So I grew up in a small town in Michigan. Okay, Grand Rapids, Michigan. They don't call it a small town. I call it a small town. But I felt very stifled, and I couldn't wait to break free. In college, I felt stifled. Then in the first city that I lived in as an adult, which was in Chicago, I still kept running into all of these people that I knew. And I just really wanted to broaden my world. So I'm going to skip around on this one a bit to get to the point of the story. I think there's too many people that suffer from, they think they're the smartest person in the room, or they think they need to demonstrate that they're the smartest person in the room. And yeah, I might have suffered from that earlier in my career. I have a lot more humility now than I had back then. And when I had my first real IT job, I all of a sudden had to learn about data centers and phone switches and network switches and data storage arrays and all these really scary things. And I really quickly learned I needed to value the people on my team and what they bring, whether it's the employees, uh, the stakeholders in the business, my suppliers and partners. And it's no matter where they are. And in the technology world, they are often very distributed. So I very quickly had to realize that I needed to rely on and trust everyone that was part of the team. But to really understand the diversity and to unlock the value that a team brings, I think it requires an investment of time. And that time isn't just sitting in a meeting room, getting to know them. I think it means breaking bread, spending time with them after hours. Thus, it gets to the travel and why I'm in kind of the middle of UK on the weekend, because it's important for me to sit with my team, spend time with my teams, learn what they have to bring all of that value back into the team. So I get a lot of miles.
So good. Well, it's nothing like being there, and different conversations ensue, right? And like you say, those things don't happen over Zoom. Well, good stuff on the international front. And again, thank you, Kim. And this next one I am really excited to talk about. It's Diane, the Chief Instigation Officer, and the best CIOs, the best leaders, they don't just adapt to change; they instigate it. Right? I think that's just a real superpower. And so we have a mutual friend, Emmett Keefe, doing amazing work in the world, working with a lot of CIOs, and he talks a lot about challenging CIOs to be agitators, which I think is brilliant. But Diane, we both know that how you agitate matters, because you can agitate and just really tick people off, and you lose them right on the journey. And so, how do you find the right balance? How do you instigate change? How do you bring people on that journey with you?
So I don't think you know this, Dan, but somebody one time actually had a nameplate made up for me that said Chief Instigation Officer.
I did not know this. That is hilarious.
I'm not even sure who did it at this point. I wonder if I still have it somewhere in my office. But yeah, I think one of the ways that I do it is go direct to the source. So why do we always have to follow the official path that somebody has that's out there? We have too many chutes and ladders in these organizations. Somebody today used a phrase that I loved, and they said, "This needs to go where even the water can't flow to." And I thought that was such a great visual metaphor, because that's so often where we need to go to figure out how to actually get something done.
Mm,
So go where even the water has a hard time flowing.
wow. Never heard that. And water is a pretty powerful thing. So yeah, really good point. We have another dear friend, a fellow instigator of yours on many fronts, and you're gonna love I have a couple questions from her. I can't wait for you to answer. So let's listen to this first one.
If you could hack one outdated corporate norm,
and delete it from the business world forever, what would it be? And why do you think it's still surviving in 2025? I'm Mantha Chamarthi.
She's amazing. She's amazing.
She's awesome. I would kill hierarchy.
Mm.
The heft of layers, the heft of hierarchies creates this persona of they. When I'm doing these listening sessions, I can't tell you how often they is the source of a problem. Like, can you name they? Like, who specifically is they? And when you get down to it, a lot of times it has become a historical practice or rhetoric that came from a previous administration, and people can't even name it anymore. So if we could just go direct to where even the water can't flow and forget about those hierarchies and work together as a team. I know we can't, do with the Zappos model of doing away with all managers. Can't go that far, but let's slay they and just talk to the right people that we need to bring into the conversation. And why haven't we been able to kill that? I don't know. I went on a tour today in York, UK, and he was telling stories about Henry VIII. And I don't know, it sounds like some of the current political administrations that we have going on right now. So if we haven't figured out how to address it in 1,000 years, I don't know how we'll fix it in the next 1,000 either.
Great point. So check ourselves. We find ourselves talking about they. That's the time to check ourselves and really stay. I like that. Mantha, thank you. Mantha's gone on to another new role, Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company, where she's going to work her magic. She's got one more great question for you. Actually, she had 4, but I want to use 2 of them.
Okay.
So let's listen to Mantha's next question, which is going to be fascinating.
If you could instantly download a superpower from any of the tech leaders in history, think like Steve Jobs' storytelling, Satya Nadella's empathy, Turing's genius, whose code would you borrow and what would you use it for?
Is that amazing or what? That's a great question.
She asks great questions. Absolutely. So, I often don't answer directly the question that is asked of me and can sometimes form it for how I want to answer. So forgive me for that one, Dan.
Yeah.
But I'll call it the tech genius that I'm going to name is maybe not such a well-known name, but Ken Waterman has worked with me for many years. He was like my right arm and my left arm, and he just brought so much to my teams for me. Ken had the most amazing power of organization, his personal organization and how to unlock talent from his team. And then what he brought was this amazing ability to learn new technologies. What was at the forefront? What did we need to do? And he has my muse through most of my career to teach me what I needed to know as a CIO. So if I could unlock the superpower of his organizational skills to free up time to learn new things, that's what I would wish I could do. But I've just never been able to get as good at it as Ken has been.
Wow. I hope to meet Ken someday. I mean, he was, you had the choice to pick Jobs, Satya Nadella, Turing, and you go with Ken Waterman. So that is pretty high praise.
I've spent a little bit more time with Ken than I have with Satya or Steve.
I get it. Well, speaking of friends, I've got another one for you here. And we're going to pivot to the notion of chief influence officer, because you don't get to be great at leadership if you don't have the power of influence. Those who use the title only can only go so far, right? So check out this mystery questionnaire and the gifts behind it.
You have innumerable strengths. But one of my favorites is your blend of great intellect, wit, and empathy. So, in your journey through all the complex organizations in multiple industries around the world, what is one lesson about navigating power and influence that you wish more emerging leaders could understand? And in those same environments where power dynamics can be intense, how have you seen kindness shape outcomes in meaningful ways?
By Angela Yoakum. I wish more leaders would understand the power of vulnerability. I don't know if you know Keith Ferrazzi. He gave this really, really compelling talk one time. And I know he's got some books on this. One is Who's Got Your Back, another is Never Lead Alone. But his talk really stuck with me. Said, until we're really vulnerable with each other, we can't really trust each other. And I know that by me sharing my vulnerabilities, sometimes in private, sometimes in very public ways, it's actually the strongest method I have for truly showing my authenticity, which I say builds trust at scale. Now, the second part of Angela's question on where have I seen kindness shape outcomes in meaningful ways, I don't want to dampen the energy in the room too much, so I'm not going to take you through the details, but know that in the last few years, I had a couple of like really painful and traumatic losses in my personal life. And, you know, we live in a very public way and people see this. I have to tell you that some of my executive committee peers, some of my CIO peers, and some of my extended team members and my staff, like they showed up. Like they physically showed up. Helped me cry, grieve, sometimes just pass the time. But it was their compassion that helped me carry forward until I had the strength to do it on my own. So it was their vulnerability. It was my vulnerability and their kindness that built really powerful relationships. And then as time moves on and we have, you know, other business or personal things that we needed to work forward on, we knew we had each other's backs. But just to look, you know, you have each other's backs. I don't want any of us to have to go through, you know, personal pain and loss to be able to build those relationships at work. But even if you share the smaller vulnerabilities that you have, it builds such powerful depth in those relationships. You find the team that gets your back.
That's amazing, especially given I know what you've been through, and those people you just spoke about know who they are. So
They do.
And I appreciate that. And thanks for referencing Keith Ferrazzi, just one of the great people and you know, in general, right? And the way he convenes and brings people together. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. Angela, thank you for your question. Also a former guest and just special friend. And she had another question I'd love to I'll just share it with you just as a follow on, but she talked about all of your mentoring and your superpowers. And you talked about your listening, you know, how your listening techniques. She wanted to ask, what's a common blind spot that you often see that prevents people from, you know, getting to their potential? Anything come to mind?
See previous answer, just vulnerability, but it's really about self-awareness. So many people don't have the self-awareness to to see their vulnerabilities or admit to their vulnerabilities. So I think really understanding what you don't bring to the table is sometimes far more important than knowing what you do bring to the table. It's really going to limit you. So I hear you're going to get all of my pithy quotes today, Dan.
I love it. I love it. We have puppies. We've got duct tape. We've got.
This one, I have changed this African proverb to morph to my own, is she who wants to go fast goes alone. She who wants to go farther goes together. So you really have to have the self-awareness of what you need to know who should be on your team so that you can all achieve more together.
Yeah, that's a great African proverb, right? And kind of goes back to your earlier point too about the smartest in the room, and they do find themselves out there all by themselves, don't they? Uh, so great point. Um, Next, Chief, is around your gifts as an innovation, Chief Innovation Officer. And, a lot of times balancing these forces, right? You got to drive operational excellence, you got to drive innovation. So I'd love to have you listen to this next mystery questioner. Again, someone who knows you really well.
Based on your success as a CIO, what are the biggest challenges when it comes to balancing innovation with operational efficiency? And can you share the best practices you utilize to foster a culture of innovation, curiosity, and continuous learning?
Thanks, Alice Brockman. I appreciate that. I think this actually goes back to being really well organized and knowing your priorities. If you aren't well organized, you don't have time for fun, much less innovation or professional development. So we have to prioritize our whole self: personal, professional, physical, mental, social, emotional. And all of those ingredients are actually needed for innovation. But if you don't carve out the time, you're not going to get there. So often I have teams like, I have to deliver this. I need to work on this. I'm like, you don't have 2 hours in your week for exploration and innovation. You need to carve that out. I budget my own time to make sure that I have space for this, for reverse mentoring, for learning from tech partners, from learning from the likes of Ken Waterman. Because if I don't budget my time, how can I expect my team to do that? So I have to model that same kind of prioritization that I want everybody else to do.
Fantastic. And Alice, really appreciate your question. Appreciate you. I met her through, she and some of her colleagues went through our ExecLX leadership program, and your folks just show up great. They represent, they're great ambassadors. So I appreciate that. Well, from Chief Innovation to Chief Inspiration Officer, and you do this so well, so many ways, people inside, people outside the company. This is going to definitely be part of your legacy, Diane. So it's just really fun to kind of go there. And I've got a mystery questioner who kind of captured this. So let's listen to this one.
You are a strong voice for advancing female talent. What inspired that focus, and what key actions do you believe can create lasting change for women in leadership?
So sounds to me like that's Soba Mulukula.
You got it. Yes.
So been working with and mentoring Soba for years. Thank you, Soba. I really have to thank Chris Patrick with Egon Zender for this. So Chris introduced Suja, Angela Yoakum, Maya Liebman, and myself. He had us to dinner. He thought, you all are these powerful female CIOs in Dallas. You ought to know each other. And we didn't. And we looked across the table from each other, and I think we recognized ourselves in each other. And that was something we really hadn't had before, is to have these powerful female CIOs all in one room. And so we said, we need to do something with this. There's strength in numbers, but we need to increase these numbers. And thus it was the genesis of what we now know is T200. So we just, each one, ask 5 and bring more together and have an incredible group. But, I'm going to add a second part to this, not give Chris all of the credit. But I also like to say that to those who much is given, much is expected. And yeah, I've had great successes in my life. I've had great gifts in my life, and I need to. I am obligated to share that with the community in which I work, in which I live, and the community of this great world. So, my call to action to the rest of you is, what do you need to start out there? We started T200 and have an organization of 1,500 phenomenal senior tech leaders that are all advocating and supporting for each other. And it started with a handful of us in a room connecting.
Wow.
What would each of you start if you just got together in a room and each one asked five and started something?
Incredible. I mean, that is, thank you, Chris, for being the impetus there.
I'm
Diane,
a
thanks
name
for
dropper today. I'm not usually such a name dropper, Dan, but
yeah, I love,
today
oh,
I'm here.
these are great people. And, to those who much is given, much is expected. We've all been so blessed in this profession. And so it's just a good call to action. There's always more we can do. And, it's interesting, Diane, that you mentioned the T200 right now. It's kind of a good segue to our last mystery questioner. So check this out. And this was totally by accident. So this was not anything to do with me. So, all right, listen in.
Hi, Diane. We are just so lucky to have you with us on T200. It's just amazing everything we do for our community. I think my question to you, other than my forever thank you to you, is tell one of your favorite stories of the magic that you have been doing for T200. I think more people need to get inspired by that, like you inspired me for the last 8 years.
Sounds like Marina?
That is indeed Marina. Yeah, Marina Bellini.
Okay. All right. So we have a number of just informal local meetups with T200. And when I'm in town, I like to try to attend the one in Dallas. And now that I'm saying this, I can think of so many other stories, but I'll stick with this one story. There were, I don't know, a dozen women or so that were just talking and advocating for each other and coaching and helping. And, one of them turned to me and she's like, oh, so, who are you? Like, she had no idea that I was one of the founding members of T200, that I'm on the board, that I'm chair of the membership committee, and I do all these things. But I was so thrilled, actually, to see that the teams, that we have such critical mass of the next generation of women that are taking this forward, that those of us that started it can start to step back and be fully confident that it's going to be even greater in the future because of how much we've unlocked in the community. So I thought it was so cool to have anonymity.
Well, Marina, thank you. Marina's gone and gotten herself a role that is pretty big and wild, president of the MGS and digital technologies for one of the biggest privately held companies in the country, right? Mars. And
Yeah.
so I mean, I think T200. I think of you. I think Marina. We've heard from Angela. We've heard from Mamtha. All key leaders in this organization, and the work you're doing is amazing. So again, this is kind of dumb luck for me, but the next question is around the Tech for Good scholarship. I kind of think I know where you're going to go. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but everyone knows what this is all about, right? But this is about us doing great things for our community through the scholarship. We are able to gift a seat in our Tech LX program, 9-month program. So anybody come to mind today, Diane, that you might think about?
So Dan, I'd really love if we could give this to T200, which is a nonprofit organization. So we are a membership organization that charges no fees to our members. We are nonprofit, and when we do receive bountiful gifts like this from our partners, then we select a great leader in our ranks to be able to benefit from it. So that would be my ask and suggestion, please.
Incredible. Thank you for that. We love the T200 here. Great partnership for us. I think that the T200 has been the most named, most recognized organization through the scholarship program. And at one point, we had four women from different T200 companies in the TechLX program. And I wrote an article about them. I published an article and just shine the light on these amazing, these would be the up and comers, right? And the companies and the organizations. So we're going to spend a little bit more time now talking about your article, your CIO.com article that will come out next week. But no, we're going to have some fun with that, Diane. And just thank you again for being such an amazing human, an amazing leader, one of the people that's really left a mark in our profession. And this is long overdue. So thank you for making time to do this.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it.
Well, there you have it, everybody. Diane Schwarz on redefining what success looks like. What does it take to be a great leader, a great CIO today? And as you just heard, it's not just about being the chief information officer, but also chief integration, chief inspiration, chief instigation, chief influence, and chief innovation officer. Her impact, you just heard through the lens of many, 7 actually, people who know her well from her past roles, her volunteer work, just the legacy she's built. And Diane just reminds us so well that leadership, while it's hard, it's difficult, a lot of hard days out there, it's not a solo climb. It's about the people that you bring with you and who make you better every day. And so keep an eye out. Diane and I are going to work on an article now for CIO.com. It'll be out next week. And we're going to talk about how do you pursue new opportunities when you're not 100% ready? In fact, you shouldn't be if you're pursuing it. How do you overcome the doubt, the uncertainty as you go into those unknowns? How do you understand that maybe sometimes you're being put into a role to groom you for the role after that, but you don't know it at the time? And we're going to talk about just personal branding because, as Diane said, it's not about you. It's about you are building the brand for your team, your organization, your company. So all these things matter. So with that, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for loving, liking, and sharing this, commenting. And we will see you next time.